Welcome to this week's episode of Stranger Stitches, where we take a candle into the darkest corners of history and the tragedies of true crime. I sprinkle in just enough sweet tea and southern charm to keep it all as civilized as possible. And in some cases, that gets pretty hard. This story is not a news article. It was obtained through public sources and court documents. We're just sitting here on the porch telling tales like folks do. I'll probably work on my crochet a little bit if y'all don't mind. So, pick your poison, sit that shapely ass down, and buckle up, Buttercup. Today, we're taking a look into the case of the Washtenaw County Foster family murders. And just so y'all know, this is an ongoing case, so we're going to revisit it as the trial gets underway, and then I'll probably report on the results as well. Let's meet the Bernhard family. Faith, love, and foster care. The Bernhard family lived in Northfield Township, Michigan, a quiet community about 10 miles north of Ann Arbor. And these weren't just ordinary foster parents. They were a deeply religious family who walked the walk when it came to their faith. Jeffrey Bernhard, age 53, was the foster father who would survive the unthinkable. Now, I'm not going to post his pictures here, but if y'all care to go look, that man, was brave beyond what I can imagine. There was Jennifer Bernhard, age 48, foster mother and ordained minister herself before retiring from that position and becoming a full-time mom. That's amazing because this little girl that they were fostering came from a family that was bad enough to have her removed, and then she went into a loving family with a full-time mom. That kid scored. With that family. There was Stevie Smith, age 74, Jennifer's father, an ordained minister who also lived with the family. This family had a 9-year-old bio kid, the Bernhard's own child, and who would witness this whole thing that happened. The 4-year-old foster daughter was Shuvonne Vinson's bio kid and was placed in the care of the Bernhards through Samaritas. The Bernhards had been fostering this little one since April of 2024, so they'd been caring for her for approximately 8 months when there was a knock at the door. Well, they'd been working through Samaritas, one of Michigan's major foster care agencies, and here's a fact that broke my heart. There are almost 4,000 foster families in Michigan that care for more than 9,000 children in the system. Oh, I wonder what this case did to diminish the families that were available. Well, the Bernhard family attended church every Wednesday and Sunday with both children. And that's important to remember because it directly connects with the lies that would later be told to justify what happened. Specific details about their foster care history, how long they'd been foster parents, how many children they'd care for, aren't in the public records. Foster agencies keep that information confidential to protect families and children. Now remember that, sugar, because it's going to come up later and there may be a quiz. On New Year's Day, 2025, that's the day everything went to hell. Picture this. 8:33 p.m. on New Year's Day, 2025, in that little town of Northfield Township, while most folks were nursing their hangovers and making New Year's resolutions they'd break before Valentine's Day, the Bernhard family was settling in after having like 15, 20 family members over the night before for New Year's Eve. Jeffrey had gone upstairs to the bedroom, which is over the garage, when he heard noises downstairs and saw an unfamiliar car outside. There were 5 people in total in the house when the attack occurred. That little 9-year-old girl, their bio kid, was the one who initially opened the door when the attackers arrived, not knowing that they were armed devils. And, well, she didn't leave that kind of life where she had to worry. Her family were ministers who probably saw people come and go all the time on church business or counseling or, whatever ministers do. I'm not sure. Well, let's meet these unholy trinity. Our cast of characters reads like a who's who of bad decisions and the bottom feeder lifestyle. Shuvonne Vinson, age 42, was the bio mom of that little 4-year-old foster girl. This woman had more red flags than a bullfight, and she was mad about losing custody of her little girl. Her twisted justification? She claimed that the Bernhards were evil and demonic, and they wouldn't let her daughter believe in God. Sound like bullshit to you? Sound like bullshit to me. Considering this family attended church twice a week and was in the house with 2 ordained ministers. Okay, well, moving on. I'm just going to step over that for now. What led to Vinson losing custody and having the child removed by Wayne County? Well, we'll get to some of that. She was only allowed supervised Zoom or cell phone visitation with her child, even over the phone or on the tablet. She had to be supervised. Court documents made it crystal clear that Vinson was to have 0 in-person contact with her daughter. Virtual visits only, because even the courts knew what was up with this woman. The criminal history of her was about 2 decades long, and this is just the Cliff's Notes version. This woman had been collecting charges like some people collect stamps, dating back at least 20 years. In 2005, she got a misdemeanor charge for marijuana, and then it goes on. June 2024, she pled guilty to carrying a concealed weapon, which is a felony. September 4th, 2024, a bench warrant was issued for her failing to appear for her sentencing. Well, let's put a cherry on that fucked up little cupcake. 4 months before she showed up guns a-blazing, Detroit police had that bench warrant out for her arrest. They said that they had made several attempts to find her, but couldn't find her, and apparently they didn't try that hard, but that's my opinion. She was supposed to be in court for sentencing on that weapons charge, but was apparently too busy planning a murder. Her abuse allegations were pure fiction. Detective Sergeant Jason Bridges investigated every one of her claims, and there was no evidence that the Bernhards ever physically or sexually abused that child. The only abuse they could point to, they said somebody allegedly pushed their daughter doing a virtual visit. Well, some sources say it was that the bio kid said, hurry up, hurry up. They wanted to, she had something planned. They wanted to go play a game or do something. I'm not sure that push was anything more than a tap on the shoulder, but I don't have that kind of evidence. And they also wouldn't let the child use the word holy. Well, you know, things like holy shit or holy crap, well, that's not going to be allowed, but it's not the word holy that makes the difference. Okay, well, that was that. And that's what they used to justify a double murder. Now let's meet the bad guys. Gregory Callahan, age 37, had a clean record but went wrong. This is where Gregory Callahan claimed he grew up with Vinson, though he started off denying that he even knew her when they first questioned him. Here's the kicker. Callahan supposedly had no criminal history, not so much as a parking ticket. Yet how does somebody get to be 37 years old and have a completely clean slate? Yet somehow this clean record citizen got talked into committing multiple murders and planning to sell a child. So what was his role in the massacre? Vinson told him to bring a shotgun to the attack. He went upstairs during the home invasion to steal jewelry and whatever else he could find from the bedrooms. He admitted that the plan was to take and sell the 9-year-old into trafficking. I just had to sit with that for a minute. He told police that Vinson explicitly said they were going there to kill them. And he initially lied about knowing Vinson and claimed that they grew up together. Not true. Not true at all. Keith Finley, age 60. They have a crack house connection. Finally, Keith Finley, a 60-year-old career criminal who met Vinson at a crack house in Detroit just days before the murder. Now, when your cute meat story involves a crack house, it is time to reevaluate your entire existence. He had a very violent role. He had prior felony convictions which prohibited him from owning a firearm, which at this point don't matter. You can write anything you want to on paper, and it's up to him to act right. He was standing right next to Vincent when she shot Stevie Smith, that was the grandpa, and admitted to, I'm sorry, y'all, stomping on the old man after he was shot. Oh, he, like I said, he had met Vincent at the crack house and agreed to help kill people within days. Now, how does that even happen? How is that humanly possible? And then I got it noodled out. It's not human. These people have no grain of humanity in their soul at all. He initially denied even knowing Callahan, despite the evidence of the three of them together. The smoke and gun evidence, police found a selfie video on Vincent's phone from the night before the murder showing all three of them together in her car. Now, this totally contradicted Finley's claims that he didn't know Callahan. Well, I did an episode on digital debacle that pretty much explains everything. They've become so dependent on cell phones that they just hand over their own evidence, basically. Well, here was my biggest question. The address mystery, how foster family protection totally failed. And it made me so mad. Dave Morin is the head honcho over at Samaritas. That's the outfit that's supposed to be protecting these foster kids and the foster families. He had the audacity to say that he was deeply concerned that Vinson somehow got her grubby hands on the Bernhard's address. We don't know what happened and are actively cooperating in the investigation to determine how it did. Morin said in what can only be described as way fucking late. Yeah, sounds like a little ass covering to me. Foster family locations are supposed to be protected by anonymity for this exact reason, to keep the fucking psychopath bio parents from showing up with shotguns and, to put it lightly, bad intentions. This represents one of the biggest damn failures in the foster care system that I have ever heard of. Well, they come up with a plan, the bad guys did. And according to police testimony, this was not a spur-of-the-moment custody dispute. This was premeditated. You think? Oh. Vinson had convinced these two knuckleheads to help her, quote, protect her daughter from the supposedly evil and demonic foster family. How much crack you have to do to believe a line like that? Well, the night before the murders, these three took a selfie together in Vinson's car, and that was all the evidence the police needed to tie all three of them together. This was a nightmare, unimaginable horror. That 9-year-old girl opened the door, probably thinking it was a late-day New Year's Eve visitor, and let in these three monsters. Jeffrey heard his wife scream, a scream that he says he will never forget. He later testified it was a scream of terror. And let me tell y'all a little bit. He testified in April of 2025 at their hearing. That would have marked 1 year, almost exactly, to the day that they had taken in that baby girl. That's so sad. At first, Jennifer thought it was an Amazon delivery, and then the nightmare begins. The attack unfolds. All three attackers were armed with guns. They forced the family to the floor. Vinson took Jeffrey and Jennifer's phone. She demanded bank passwords and transferred $6,000 via Zelle. I guess that's an app. I don't use it. Jeffrey was pistol whipped at first and then shot in the chest, then shot in the right side of the head. Jennifer was shot in the head. I'm sorry, y'all. I get tearful even reading it. Stevie Smith was shot while lying on the floor. All of this was witnessed by the children. The 9-year-old wasn't even 20 feet away. Now, here's a miracle. Even after being shot in the head and the chest, Jeffrey Bernhard wasn't ready to give up. That man with the right side of his face showing massive damage, completely swollen and bloody, and that's per the police report. He managed to get up and make it to his neighbor's house for help. So he's blind in his right eye, and he will never regain that vision. He had bullet fragments in his torso and a plate in his head now. Yeah, he'll never be the same again. So, here's where it gets a little more twisted, as if that were even possible. When the police asked why they took the 9-year-old, Vinson said she was protecting the child from seeing what had happened. Yeah, well, shit, Sherlock. That had already happened, hadn't it? Damn. Lies after lies. Gregory Callahan told a different story. He then said that was when they were going to plan to take her and do her in with the trafficking, either sell her or probably do it themselves. These weren't just killers. They were monsters planning to profit off of that child. Well, the 4-year-old was present as well, and she was very emotional and very scared, according to the report. She wanted to hug the Bernhards before she was taking, hugging the people who'd shown her nothing but love, while her bio mother held them at gunpoint. The manhunt and the capture. So after the killings, they loaded up both kids and the family dog. What were they going to do with the dog? And they headed straight over to Vinson's mother's house on Lexington Parkway in Ypsilanti Township. But I probably shouldn't name the address. She might not have had nothing to do with it. Where they dropped off the 4-year-old. But law enforcement was closing in. Washtenaw County Sheriff deputies spotted their stolen vehicle because, of course, it was stolen, and it was near Vinson's mother's home. And here's the kicker. When they searched Vinson after she'd been in custody for only 30 minutes, they found a loaded 9mm tucked up in her armpit. This woman was smuggling guns even after her arrest? Why didn't they search her? Did she even get patted down? Oh my goodness. Okay, stepping over. Well, here's the court proceedings, how they got started. On January 3rd, 2025, initial arraignments. And while she was there, Vinson gave exactly the kind of speech you would expect from someone so lowbrow. F in this, F in that, calling the judge bro. Yeah, that sounds like somebody who, okay. April 16th, Callahan and Finley are bound over for trial. May 22nd, Vinson has to undergo a competency hearing. Yeah, Vinson had to request a new attorney. Well, she was found competent and she was bound over for trial October 1st. Yeah, it's not happened yet. Vinson's pre-trial hearing is scheduled in August the 13th, so just a few days ago. Callahan and Finley had their pre-trial meetings and all that stuff, and they were also bound over for trial. Vinson really showed her ass in court. Yeah. Okay. If you are easily offended by language, cover your ears for just a minute. Her quote is, "Them motherfuckers deserve to die for fucking with my kids." That's what she said in court. She made faces at people during the court testimony. She was even smiling at some times. Smiling while she's down for murder. She appeared to flip off the court while she pretended to play with her hair. She wore a handmade t-shirt that says, "I stand tall for baby truth." She blew kisses at the court attendees, and she had to be removed several times for outburst. But yet, she had been found competent. I think we need a second opinion. The judge, J. Cedric Simpson, called this a sickening case, noting it wasn't just about the custody dispute. It was about them going into the house and creating mayhem. Again, I say, what the fuck, Sherlock? You think? Well, maybe it was about people losing their lives. Well, in the aftermath, all three defendants are going to face life in prison. Jeffrey Bernhard survived to seek justice for his murdered wife and father-in-law, telling the court that he's confident in the prosecution and in the police work. This tragedy exposed serious flaws in the foster care system and their security. Elizabeth Hurdle from Michigan's Department of Health and Human Services emphasized that over 9,000 children, I think we talked about that earlier, in the state foster care system still need loving homes. This incident, I'm sure, doesn't go far to increasing the likelihood of some families to foster children, especially if they have children of their own, until this is resolved as to how they got the address and where was the break in the system. How much can we trust that this flaw was repaired? And how about some people just take it off their plates altogether? 9,000 kids need these people, and it's tragic that there are those children that could wind up, in an orphanage type setting or in some juvenile care facility because there is no place else to put them, and it was no fault of their own. And if y'all have listened to very many of my stories, I start out in the childhoods of some of these criminals, and ain't it a fact that a lot of them come from those sort of situations? I hope that 9-year-old survivor is getting the counseling that she needs to heal. She will never be able to unsee the things that happen, but maybe through a lot of people's help and hard work on her own, she will be able to carry it with some kind of grace. And I don't mean showing the world how graceful she can be. I hope she finds peace in her own heart. Oh, and that 4-year-old, I hope that she grows into a loss of memory for that, but I can't tell you that for sure. A 4-year-old can have some long-term memories. And I really hope that 4-year-old goes on to find a permanent, loving, caring home. Y'all, this case reminds us that evil walks among us, sometimes closer than you think. Sometimes it wears the face of a concerned parent, but it also shows me that good can triumph. And in this case, it's going to be a long time coming. Survivors can find strength. Look at Mr. Bernhard. And although his justice seems like it's slower than cold syrup, I want to believe in my own heart that it will eventually find its day. Okay, y'all. Well, that's where I have to leave it for now. That's all I know. This is an ongoing case, and I will bring you updates as they become available. That's where I gotta leave it for this time. Thanks for hanging with me, y'all. See you next time.